I will call this meeting to order. It's the regularly scheduled meeting of the Transportation Public Works Committee. This day, March 14th, 2017. I'm Councilman Reich. I'll be chairing today's committee. I'm joined by my colleagues, Councilmembers Yang, Glidden, Palmisano, and Gordon. We are quorum, and we'll proceed with today's agenda, which has 3 public hearings, and the remainder are consent items. I'll go through the consent items. Any member can pull them for further consideration. Item 4 on the consent is a contract amendment with Minneapolis Refuse Incorporated, MRI, and that's for an automated vehicle locator technology for the amount listed. Item 5 is the contract amendment with Mark Fredericks for impound lot auctioneer services. Item 6 is the cooperative agreement with the Hennepin County Regional Authority, and that is for water traffic lighting related to the Portland Avenue South, Cedar Avenue South Bridge project over Midtown Greenway in 2017. Item 7 is the 34th Avenue Street reconstruction project layout approval. Item 8 is the 2017 Open Streets dates, approving the dates for 2017 for those events. Item 9 is the bid for polyester resin and felt liner material for cured-in-place pipelining for the amount listed. Item 10 is the bid for closed circuit television inspection and sanitary sewer system, and accepting the following 3 bids that were submitted on official publication. Item 11, the final item, is the bid for Northtown Bridge interpretive site, and that's accepting the low bid of Global Specialty Contractors for the amount listed to do a interpretive site that which I've reviewed is going to be quite fantastic. So with that, does anyone want to pull any item? Seeing none, I will move all items as submitted on the consent. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Dissenting nay. Those items pass, and then we will now go to our public hearings. Good morning, Director Cerny.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Mike Kennedy will make the presentation for this public hearing.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Mike Kennedy. I'm the Director of Transportation Maintenance and Repair for Minneapolis Public Works, and I'm here to talk about the public hearing for the 7th Street South and 13th Avenue South resurfacing project. Is that showing up in the view? Yeah, it's down in here. They can move that. On January 27th, 2017, the City Council designated the location, streets, and improvements proposed to be made in the 2017 Streets Resurfacing Program. 7th Street South and 13th Avenue were included in this designation. 7th Street from 13th Avenue to 11th Avenue is a municipal state aid or MSA street built in 1953 and overlaid in 1997. 13th Avenue South from 8th Street South to 5th Street South is a local city street. It's undetermined when this street segment was last built or paved, but it was seal coated in 1990. These streets are anticipated to resurface in late summer of 2017. The cost estimate of $171,276 for this project consists of the following sources: $61,170 in net debt bonds and MSA funding, as well as $110,106 in special assessments. The proposed street resurfacing special assessments were determined by applying the 2017 uniform assessment rates of 65 cents per square foot for non-residential properties and 22 cents per square foot for residential properties. There was a community meeting held on March 6th, a week ago Monday. No one attended that. I think there were 18 letters sent out. There's a small project with very few affected property owners. So our recommendation today is passage of a resolution ordering the city engineer to proceed and do the work and adopt special assessments in the amount of $110,105.70 for 7th Street and 13th Avenue. Passage of a resolution requesting the Board of Estimate and Taxation to authorize the city to issue and sell assessment bonds in the combined amount of $110,106 for this project. That concludes my presentation. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Any questions per the staff presentation? Seeing none, I will then open the public hearing for item 1, 7th Street South, 13th Avenue South Street resurfacing. Anyone signed in? No one signed in. Does anyone wish to come forward and give testimony? Anyone wish to come forward? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and move the item as submitted. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. That carries. On to item 2.
Mr. Chair, Mike Kennedy will also make the presentation for the 38th Street resurfacing public hearing.
Again, Mike Kennedy from Public Works. This is the public hearing for the 38th Street East resurfacing program. On January 27th, 2017, the City Council designated all the streets resurfacing for 2017, and this project was included in that designation. This is 38th Street from Minnehaha Avenue to 46th Avenue is an MSA street, last paved in 1978. 38th Street from 46th Avenue to West River Parkway is a local city street, last paved in 1978 as well. We're anticipating resurfacing these in midsummer of this construction season. The cost estimate of $423,685 for the project consists of $278,891 in net debt bonds and MSA funding, $144,794 in special assessments. The proposed resurfacing special assessments were determined by applying the 2017 uniform assessment rates of 65 cents per square foot for non-residential and 22 cents for residential. There was a community meeting held on March 8th, just last week. It was well attended, and there were a lot of questions. Typically, I think most people seem to be in favor of the street resurfacing, but I had questions about some of the bike issues out there. So our recommendation today is passage of a resolution ordering the city engineer to proceed and do the work and adopt the special assessments in the amount of $144,792.32, and pass a resolution requesting the Board of Estimate and Taxation to authorize the city to issue and sell assessment bonds in the combined amount of $144,795 for this project. Again, that concludes my presentation. There are staff here to address any other questions as well as myself.
Any questions per the presentation? See none. I will then open the public hearing. We do have a few people signed in. I will take them in order. Adam Mell, if you could come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is Adam Mell. I'm a resident of the Longfellow neighborhood, 3725 44th Avenue South, and just wanted to come and voice my public support of the resurfacing, and in particular the proposed bike lane that would go from the River Road to Minnehaha. I would also like to state that I'm here just to represent myself, my family, Vincent Mell and Megan Mell, no one else, not my employer or anything like that. I am a public employee, so I do want to make that very clear. I'm here as a resident on my own time. As someone who has moved to the neighborhood about 5 years ago, I moved specifically to the area for the ability to get around without using a vehicle as much as I would in other areas. So when I learned about this, I was very excited to see the expansion with connecting this vital route from the River Road, which is already a very used bikeway by myself, my family, and many people in the neighborhood, to Minnehaha, and particularly to the LRT trail, which would be very beneficial for me personally, but I think would also link a lot more people to vital bike routes that go north-south in the city without having to sort of circumvent it. I appreciate the work in the neighborhood that has been done to make it bike-friendly, to make it walkable, and to make it a place for people like me who choose to try to drive left and get around on ways that are economical and environmentally sustainable. I'd also like to say that I do value the businesses that are in the neighborhood, and I appreciate that they're there. I recognize that there's some challenges that they see with the parking moving. I'd also like to say, at least from my perspective as a neighborhood, that the parking that would be removed wouldn't do much to address the current parking needs that we have. So I don't think that it would have a major effect on the overall traffic or business. Biggest business being Riverview Theater, which draws far more traffic than can park on 38th anyways, with numerous north-south streets available for parking. I think that should be more than enough for public street parking. And I think beyond that, I just would like to see this bike lane go through, and hope to be riding on it later this summer. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Karen O'Connor, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much. I'm a property owner on 38th, 3738 42nd Avenue South. I'm one of the co-owners of Mother Earth Gardens, one of the businesses on 38th. And while we also support some type of bikeway, we don't necessarily support the plan as presented, although the plan has since shifted. So we are just simply asking for the time to really work through all of the issues, because there are a lot of technical issues with this bike lane. And We know that there's an opportunity here with the repaving, or the resurfacing rather, to do the striping. However, we feel like there hasn't really been enough assessment at this point of the parking needs in a seasonal manner. We've only seen things in the fall. So we are, again, in favor of some type of bikeway, not necessarily the plan as so far presented. So we are just definitely pushing for a lot more neighborhood involvement. And so far, Public Works and the city has been responding to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else sign in? Does anyone else wish to come forward and give testimony? Anyone else wish to come forward? See none, I will close the public hearing. In terms of the public process, is there any sort of comment for the committee to give a flavor of that back and forth, since that was raised in testimony?
Mr. Chair, Nathan Coster will come forward and talk about the process related to the second project,
Okay.
the restriping.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Here to give an update on the 38th Street Bikeway project. And what I would like to clarify for the committee is identified in the Bicycle Master Plan, these are what are called opportunity-based projects that are not solely driven by themselves, but taken in coordination with ongoing maintenance activities or projects such as this as a mill and overlay in this area. The Bicycle Master Plan does identify projects and identifies certain types of routes, but is more of a guide in this instance. And as an opportunity in this area, Public Works has presented a concept as draft and started that in community engagement outreach. We plan to continue this community outreach, working with residents individually, as well as the business owners, as we continue this process before we finalize a recommendation. And to add to that, we are working to set up additional meetings with the businesses, Mother Earth Gardens in particular, as well as others along the corridor, as well as setting up a community outreach meeting later this spring.
So the request for further participation will be ongoing?
Yes,
Okay.
there's actively ongoing participation with those who have come forth with concerns along the corridor.
I suppose you can't put the paint down until the asphalt's dry anyways.
Until we put the paint down, we want to work through to continue to engage with the community members as well as the businesses along the corridor before we make a final decision.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate the attention given to it. Any further commentary? Seeing none, and with that understanding about that aspect of the project, I will move the item as submitted. Any further conversation? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting nay? Thank you. We'll now move to item 3.
Mr. Chair, Mike Kennedy will make the presentation.
Somewhere I have a map here. There we go. Too much paperwork here. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Mike Kennedy again from Public Works, here to talk about the proposed Washington Street Northeast resurfacing project. On January 27th, 2017. That's why it seemed, I couldn't see it on the thing. Thank you. City Council designated the location and streets for the resurfacing program for this year, and this project, Washington Street Northeast, was part of that. The project is on Washington Street Northeast from 17th Avenue Northeast to 27th Avenue Northeast. This is an MSA street, last paved in 1965, where the project is anticipated to be resurfaced in early fall of 2017. Cost estimate of $364,157 is made up of $199,295 net debt bonds and or MSA funding, and thank you, that's a better picture, isn't it? And $199,295 in MSA or net debt, and $164,862 in special assessments. The proposed resurfacing special assessments were determined by applying the 2017 uniform assessment rates, 65 cents per square foot for non-residential and 22 cents per square foot for residential. There was a community meeting held on March 8th last week. There were a few people that attended. However, However, our recommendation today is that it's actually been brought to our attention that a couple of assessment notices for Washington Street included some supplemental material from another project. We believe the assessment totals in the notices are accurate, but in order to allow time to verify and resend notices, we request that this public hearing be continued to the April 18 Transportation and Public Works Committee meeting.
Thank you. Any questions for the presentation? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. We do have someone who signed in. Rita Bilek, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Rita Bielek, and I'm a property owner at 2651 Washington Street Northeast. And we were kind of upset that we didn't even have a 30-day notice on this to even come to the hearing, for one thing. And then they're saying, I thought road resurfacing was part of your property taxes. We've owned this property for over 30 years, and we've never been assessed like this for road resurfacing. And I'm kind of confused about that issue because they're saying that it costs over $7 million to do a 10-block area of road surfacing. That's $671,000 for just a 1-block area. And I just feel that it probably didn't go out for bids properly and that it should be rebid, because that's an outrageous amount for a 1-block area. You know, $671,000 and having to be assessed, what was it, $719 $719.53 for road resurfacing, which should be part of my property taxes as far as we're concerned. And I don't understand why we're being assessed this. If someone can clear up that issue and check on the pricing of this, because I think the contractor got bumped up or something, because that is an outrageous price.
We will address that. Thank you for your
Oh,
testimony.
and another thing is, we also feel that the bus company, Metro Transit, or whatever they call themselves nowadays, should also be partly responsible for repairing any road damage, because that's a bus route, and like they storm down that street and slam on their brakes at the stop signs and tear up the pavement. And I think that they should, you know, participate in some of the responsibility of repairing the road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else sign in? Anyone else wish to come forward? Anyone else wish to come forward? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and continue the public hearing till April 18th per recommendation of staff. And a few questions were raised in testimony, if we could address them regarding our process for assessment, the pricing, and the consistency with what we'd expect for pricing for the work, and then Metro Transit's participation or lack thereof.
Mr. Chair, I'll try to address the questions as I see them. I'm not sure what the numbers are where she's coming from, and if we could talk with her in the hall and explain exactly where some of these numbers are from, how it all relates. The total resurfacing program cost estimate is $6,700,000 for 2017. That's 22 miles of projects. The cost estimate for this particular project on Washington is $423,685. Some of the funding for that comes from assessment. Some of the funding for that comes from net debt bonds or MSA funding. The MSA dollars are gas tax dollars because this is a truck route and it's a designated MSA street. We get some additional support for funding from MSA. There's a net debt bond component. The net debt bond component, the debt service of that comes from property taxes. So there's property taxes built into this for a certain amount. And when we created this resurfacing program in 2008, the council approved this program and the assessment methodology that we have today by creating the uniform assessment rate. So the project is funded with the combination, and that's how we have been doing that since 2008. It's very common to do that for resurfacing. It's certainly the way we do it for our renovation and reconstruction programs. This project is not being contracted. This is be done by city forces, so we know very well what our costs are. We're very competitive with outside industry, but there's no contractor process here or involvement. Her assessment rate sounds like it's $751, which sounds about right in the scheme of things here. And we can verify that with her and explain that to her if she'd like. The question about MTC, I'm not sure. This is a truck route. It's designed to take trucks and buses. There's also been some concern about some of the people had voiced concerns about our fueling station at 1809 Washington, which is our street department district. That's not a public station. That's for our own use. Again, Washington is designed for those kinds of truck traffic and that sort of stuff. All of our plows and the operations and things like that. So the street is in prime condition. It's a prime candidate for the resurfacing program. The pavement condition index is right within the window that we typically do it. I drove it myself. It is a perfect candidate. There's, I think, a lot of misconceptions out there sometimes that we resurface streets that have failed. But this particular technique is something that we do on streets to extend life cycle, and this is a perfect time to do that, to really get the most benefit out of this type of work. Were there any other questions I can
No, I
answer?
think that covers it. And so the state compensates for the type of use, which includes buses. So,
Yes.
Okay. And then there are multiple sources, and then the details of which you can talk with the resident for her questions. Okay. Any further conversation from the committee? See none, I will move the item, or actually I will move to continue the public hearing until April 18th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. That item continues. And we have now concluded our agenda and are thereby adjourned.